Sarasota is more expensive than the Chicago suburbs. The buyers moving here know it, and yet Chicago is now the #1 origin for metro people relocating to this coastline. Not Naples, not Miami, here. So today we're answering the question the national headlines keep dancing around. Why do smart Midwestern families keep paying a premium to be here? Spoiler, it's not the beaches, it's the balance sheet. Let's start with the receipts. Florida Realtors tracks out-of-state driver license exchanges, one of the cleanest real measures of who's actually moving in the state. For 2025, New York led Sarasota County, followed by New Jersey, Illinois, Pennsylvania, and Massachusetts. And when Redfin sliced its user data by metro area in late 2025, one city stood out at the top of the Sarasota pipeline. Of course, Chicago. Statewide, the picture is the same. Florida ranked #2 in the nation for inbound moves in the U-Haul's 2025 Growth Index. Its 11th straight year in the top 4. And right here in South Sarasota, Northport cracked the national top 10 growth cities. The pandemic frenzy is over, nobody disputes that. But the underlying current still flowing, still strong, and still dominated by high tax northern states. Here's where it gets interesting. Sarasota County's median single family home ran about $475,000 in early 2026. That's real money, more than a comparable house in Chicago suburbs. But the purchase price is only the first line of the ledger. A family leaving Illinois carries 3 recurring costs that simply do not exist in Florida. Line 1, state income tax. Illinois takes 4.95% of everything you earn. Florida takes 0. Line 2, property taxes. Cook County effective rates routinely run north of 2%, and reassessment cycles compound that burden. In Florida, once you homestead, the Save Our Homes cap limits your assessment, grows to 3% a year, ever. Line 3, the estate tax. And we'll give that one its own segment because it's the piece most families discover way too late. Net it all out, and local relocation analysis consistently land in the same range. A typical Chicago area household recaptures $18,000 to $28,000 every single year after the move. Run that over a 20-year horizon, and the so-called premium on the Sarasota house doesn't just shrink, it disappears. So where is the northern equity actually landing? It depends entirely on which of the 3 buyers you are. If you're a pre-retiree planning your Florida chapter, the pattern is clear. Palmer Ranch and Venice for lock and leave, living along Legacy Trail, and increasingly downtown Sarasota condos. Condo inventory sits at an elevated level in 2026, which means cash-strong northern buyers are renegotiating from a position of genuine power right now. If you're an investor, follow the growth corridor, Northport and Welland Park. Northport made U-Haul's national top 10 growth cities for 2025. Entry prices sit below the coastal corridor, and rental demand tracks that migration curve almost 1-to-1. And if you're building for generations, Lakewood Ranch, one of the best-selling master plan communities in America, or the Barrio Islands, such as Siesta Key, Longboat Key, Bird Key, coastal land supply is finite. Finite supply plus permanent demand is the oldest wealth formula there is. Now, buying the asset is step 1. Protecting it where Florida separates from every other state. Clients leave behind Florida's homestead protection, and it's written into the state constitution. Your primary residence is shielded from most creditor claims, with essentially no dollar cap on that protected value. If you're a business owner, a physician, anyone carrying liability exposure, converting that northern home into equity into a protected Florida homestead isn't a lifestyle decision, it's an asset protection strategy. Now, let's be honest about the other side of the ledger because credibility matters. Florida has real carrying costs. The Midwest doesn't. Okay, so windstorm coverage, flood insurance in certain zones, HOA, CDD, and all these master plan communities. These are real numbers, and we underwrite every one of them into a client's relocation analysis. But here's the punchline. Even after those costs, the net math still favors Florida for the overwhelming majority of households arriving from Illinois, New York, or New Jersey. It just favors the well-advised household by a much wider margin. Neighborhood selection, elevation, flood zone, that's where advisory earns its keep. And now the segment most families discover too late, the transfer. Illinois taxes estates above $4 million. That sounds like a problem for someone else until you add up a paid off suburban home, 2 retirement accounts, a brokerage portfolio, and maybe a business interest. Plenty of ordinary, hardworking families cross that line without ever feeling wealthy. Florida's number is simpler, 0. No estate tax, no state tax, no inheritance tax at any level for a family with $6 to $10 million in accumulated assets. Florida domicile can preserve 6, sometimes 7 figures for the next generation. Layer on homestead inheritance protections and Florida's trust-friendly legal environment, and the move stops being a change of address. It becomes the cornerstone of the estate plan. That's the full framework. Build the asset here, protect it here, and transfer it from here. That's not relocation. That's legacy. One last piece. The 2026 market is the most favorable buyer market environment that this region has seen in years. And that is a gift for the disciplined northern buyer. Single family inventory in Sarasota County sat near 5 months supply in early 2026. Homes are taking a little longer to sell, sellers are pricing realistically, and cash is king, which is exactly what northern home equity becomes when it crosses that state line. Accounted for roughly 47% of the Sarasota County single-family closings in February. Cash deals are everywhere. Meanwhile, the demand engine hasn't shut off. Statewide indicators still point to roughly 1,000 net new Floridians every single day. Durable demand plus patient conditions, that's not a market to fear. That's a window. So why do Midwesterners keep choosing Sarasota year after year for as long as I've known, even at a premium? Because they stop comparing sticker prices and start comparing wealth outcomes. And on that scoreboard, this coastline isn't expensive at all. If you're weighing a move from Illinois, New York, New Jersey, anywhere the tax code works maybe against your family, we'll run the numbers side by side. Income tax, property tax, insurance, estate exposure, all of it with your CPA, your attorney, your group of advisors. Click the link below in this description and get your complimentary wealth guide. Remember, build, protect, and transfer. Legacy is what we're looking for, and we'll see you on the next episode.